Hi and welcome to this week's Life Lessons video. It's great to be back with you all. This week we're talking all about waking up with negative feelings. Do you wake up feeling anxious, stressed or depressed? Perhaps as soon as you open your eyes first thing in the morning, you have a sense of dread about the day ahead and you just want to stay in bed and hide away. Well, in this video, we're going to be explaining what's really going on and how you can shift from that place of anxiousness, stress, depression to being more positive and enthused about the day ahead. Welcome to our Wu Wei Wisdom Life Lessons series. In each episode, we answer your questions, reveal the powerful life lesson, and offer you lots of practical tips and advice to help you live in balance, harmony, and flow. Okay, David, so the question we've had in on this subject is, I wake up every morning with anxiety. Before I have any thoughts, I have a sense of apprehension about the day. Sometimes this can also develop into full-blown and debilitating panic. It can often take me an hour or so to get everything under control, but these uncomfortable feelings will still linger throughout the day. Can you help?
I hope so. I think this is a great example of what we call the carousel of despair. I hear this a lot with my clients, and can you just look at the question again? I always like to listen hard to the question. I hope you do. And just read that first couple of sentences.
I wake up every morning with anxiety.
Red light feeling.
Before I have any thoughts,
right,
I have a sense of apprehension about the day.
And apprehension is a thought. So there's the disagreement. So she gives us a red light feeling, and then she said, I don't have any thoughts, David, but I have an apprehension, and that's a thought. So in my experience, what's happening here is what we call the carousel of despair. There's a kind of a background noise of issues, beliefs and thoughts that you haven't dealt with. And they not only came from that morning, that night, the previous day, that may stretch right back, as we often say, right into the childhood. And these are unresolved life lessons, unresolved issues if you prefer. I prefer to call them life lessons. Issues that you have to address, you have to confront, not confrontational, but you have to confront those issues. Because if you do not confront those issues and resolve those issues, find the Wu Wei, find the way through it, what this lady is saying happens. They go on a kind of a default carousel of despair, and they keep on returning and returning. And they'll return when you're at your least resilient.
Okay.
They'll return first thing in the morning when you wake up, maybe the 3 a.m. mind when you wake up in the middle of the night, or maybe at the end of the day after a hard day's work. When you're at your tiredest, when you're at your least resilient, this is where the inner child, that part of your mind, is at its most active. And if you want to see this in action, if you're lucky enough to have physical children, when do they come and ask you things? When you're busy in the kitchen, when you're doing things, Mummy, Daddy, Daddy, Mummy, look, can I have this? Because they do this because they think they're most liable to get their own way, and the inner child works in exactly the same way.
So, because I think, David, that a lot of our teachings, all our teachings, we talk about this idea of if you have a red light feeling, you are creating it by your self-talk, your thoughts, and the deeper core beliefs that are going on.
Deeper core beliefs are the key. Yeah.
So I guess if we've spent like a few minutes or a few hours or a few days believing inauthentic beliefs, giving ourselves lots of negative self-talk, we can understand that process, that the red light, uncomfortable, painful feelings such as stress, anxiety and depression may arise. But when we wake up first thing in the morning, it's almost like we've been on complete mental shutdown. So that's why for some people it's difficult to understand how just because they've not been having the self-talk for a few hours, just because they've not been thinking negatively about themselves or their life for a few hours, it doesn't mean that the red light feelings aren't going to be there, because what you're saying is it's almost like it's like a constant background noise that if you haven't dealt with the core beliefs, the inauthentic core beliefs, which are normally the 3 lies, we talk about I'm not good enough, I can't cope, I can't manage, or I'm unlovable. If you haven't dealt with those, then it's like a computer operating system that's still operating all the time. It's almost like on standby. So you're on standby mode, but the operating system of the inauthentic beliefs is still going on in the background. So when you wake up, it's almost like you're fully charged up, you're on full power mode, and then everything just swings into the normal red light feelings.
Yeah, and that's why I believe to do the work effectively and well, and to do it that it really works for you, you have to get down to those core beliefs. Because those core beliefs are like a pair of glasses. Imagine that if you were wearing sunglasses and they were clear, you would see the world clear. If they were tinted yellow, you would see the world tinted yellow, tinted blue, etc., etc. So if you've got a mindset, a belief system of whatever it is, the world's against me, poor me, I can't cope, as Alex said, the 3 lies normally, I'm not good enough, I can't cope, I'm unlovable or unworthy. As you wake up, you've already got the glasses on. Mm-hmm. You're already seeing the day ahead, your bedroom, everything around you through those yellow tinted glasses. And that's what we're working on here in the Wu Wei process and the golden thread, to go down and really check out what those beliefs are. And the first sign that I got from this question was she had to use the not red lights. She wanted to use things like anxiety, stress, tension, because what she's trying to do there is to say, David, you don't understand. This is more intense. This is worse than anybody else. That's why, please, if you take one thing away from this video, please stop using those words. Because do you think those words make it better for you? Do you think when you wake up and the first thing that goes through your mind is stress, tension, anxiety, do you think that's a good start to your day? That's the first step. That's why we want to acknowledge the feelings. That's why I would prefer to call them red lights. Good feelings, green lights. Because what you can do then, in that instance, is just acknowledge your red lights and say, now what do I actually think, or what do I believe that is creating the red lights? And here's one of the major teachings we talk about. I know the mature you is sitting here and saying, David, don't go on about this. I know I create the red lights. I know I create the red lights. But what I'm saying is that part of your mind that we call the inner child, does he or she believe that they create the red lights? And I will tell you from all of my work, it's very rare they do. They believe those red lights come from other people, environment, situations. They believe that they have no control over them. They believe that their job is to protect, to build that wall, to go inside the prison. That's what the inner child is doing. And that creates that conflict inside of you that actually increases the red light. Here's the paradox of the situation. What you're doing by protecting yourself is making those red lights even worse. And you work and you work and you work, and it makes worse and worse and worse until you say, I'm overwhelmed. You're overwhelmed because you are creating the red lights.
And that doesn't... having a good night's sleep doesn't mean all the problems go away. So I guess it's like going to bed in a really, really untidy and messy bedroom and then expecting to wake up and everything to be tidied and put in the wardrobes and cleaned away, and that you have a beautiful, pristine bedroom. If your mind and your beliefs are untidy before you go to bed, why would they be all of a sudden tidy and everything be clean and sparkly when you wake up?
Alex, I've never heard that. That is a wonderful thing to think about. What a wonderful thing you've just said. If you go to bed and your bedroom is messed up, why would you expect to wake up and it all be tidied away and folded away? That's almost like a feng shui type of thing.
Declutter. You have to declutter before you go to bed.
That's such a wonderful analogy.
If you want to expect your room to be clean and sparkly and bright and fresh energy in the morning. And so really this is self-responsibility, as you say, because just because it's first thing in the morning, just because you've not had several hours of self-talk, it doesn't mean that the reason you're waking up with anxiety, depression, stress is because it's self-generated. Now, as you say, it may be to do with unresolved stuff from your childhood. We do a lot of work with people on the inner child issues, you know, really awful, challenging things that happened to them in their childhood that were never fully understood and resolved. So we're not saying you're to blame for what happened in your childhood, but you're responsible now for the way forward, for clearing the room, clearing the path,
life lesson.
Learning the life lesson.
So using your analogy, which is wonderful, I've never heard that. Don't expect also when you're asleep someone else to come in and tidy your bedroom. It's your bedroom. You've made the mess. You've got to tidy up. Now, you may have made that mess, as Alex said, because of something else, but it's your responsibility to tidy up the bedroom. And that's what we're talking about. So first step, stop using those emotive words, anxiety, stress, tension, because they do not make things better. I know you've been using them all of your life.
So what would you say?
I know that everybody else uses them in the media. I know it. But please just use red light, because when you use red light, then your mind, you're retraining your mind, you're tidying your mind up for you to say immediately, so why am I creating the red light? Now that becomes the golden thread. That's the why question. Why am I creating that red light? What do I think? What do I believe? Do I really believe? Here's a question for you. Write them in below. Do you really believe that every red light feeling, anxiety, anxiousness, you are creating? Now, a lot of my clients, they'll say, yes, I do at the beginning, as I said, but when we go into more detail, they don't. And then this is what I say to them. I'll say it here to you. If you are not creating that red light, who is? What is? What is putting that feeling inside of your body? Not the event or the person that's stimulating your red light. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the event or the situation or the person. I'm talking about the actual feeling in your body. If you're not creating that, who is? You have to be creating that. And that is such a powerful spiritual teaching. Remember, this is what makes Wu Wei wisdom different, because it's a spiritual teaching. Because if you take responsibility for creating that feeling, you are the one that can stop creating the feeling. You don't have to depend on anyone else. Isn't this empowering? This is your life, your mind, your body. Take responsibility for your emotions. And then you are not an invalid. You're not on a crutch. You don't need someone else. You take control. You become empowered. And this is what I want for you. I want you to be empowered. You are awesome. You are an amazing. You are a unique person. I want you to take responsibility for your emotions. You won't always get them right. You can't eliminate red light feelings. But I tell you what, once you start taking responsibility, where they used to last endlessly, you'll cut it down, cut it down, cut it down. I see people in our Facebook community saying, wow, the red light only lasted 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 30 seconds. Because you're taking control.
And we've got several videos, and I'll put a link to one above here and more down in the video description below, which talks through in more detail how to run through our golden thread process therapy model, starting with the red light feeling, so anxious, stressed, depressed, and how you work it through and work it down to the core beliefs which need addressing. And we're also doing an online course for that, which will be available sometime, probably early next year. So I hope you look forward to that. Now, David, I wanted to ask you though, if you wake up and you get the red light feelings, I would think for some people, the red light feelings could be generated by, say, a memory or something that's happened in their past that they're holding on to. I'll give you an example. One member of our Facebook community said that she has a very strong memory of how she used to have a really difficult morning with her mother every morning, who was quite angry and aggressive with her. And it's almost she said it's like a Pavlov dog reaction every morning, and that memory is still very vivid and strong for her, and that gives her the immediate panic, anxiety, red light feelings. Or I would imagine a lot of people, and this applies to a lot of our clients, have red light feelings first thing in the morning when they wake up, because of feelings of dread, apprehension, concerns, worry, fears, all red light feelings or red light labels because of what's going to happen in the day ahead, like it's going to be a disaster, etc., etc. There's going to be problems, or everything's going to go wrong. So those red light emotions that you may experience when you wake up first thing in the morning can be related to something you're attached to in the past, or something you're attached to in the future. Does the golden thread process still work in both directions?
Absolutely. Remember the two basic rules or principles, perhaps would be a better thing. You are the creator of your emotions, not the victim, number one. Number two, you control your mind doesn't control you. You control your mind. Your mind does not control you. The two examples that Alex has just given are absolutely typical as example. The First Lady is still connected to the past. She hasn't resolved that issue, I think you said, with her mother.
Yeah.
So she replays it. The mind replays it. Why does it replay it? Quite simply because it's very familiar. And in a way keeps her connected to elements that she hasn't resolved yet. The golden thread will absolutely help her, will be able to unpick, unclutter, I'm using your analogy, sort things out, unclutter her mind, and to find out why she's choosing, now a lot of people don't like that word, why she's choosing to hold on to that memory.
And replay it.
That's right. There's a choice there. There's an unresolved issue. My guess would be, this is a guess, I don't know the lady, that her mother acted in the way that she thinks that mothers shouldn't have reacted. She's making a judgmental CCJ on her mother, and she needs to go through that work. She could do it on her own, or speak to me, or put it in the community, and we could help her through that. But that's the life lesson. Yeah. That's the life lesson on her view, her opinion of her mother.
But the mother, for example, in this situation, the mother may have acted inappropriately or dealt with her inappropriately in terms of her parenting skills.
Exactly.
So we're not saying what the mother did was okay or acceptable.
No, we're saying...
But she's holding on to the idea that if only the mother would have treated me differently, or, I mean...
or it's not fair. What my mother did wasn't fair.
Yeah.
No, we're not being judgmental about any situation. This is why CCJ, do not criticize, do not compare, do not be judgmental.
Yeah.
We're not judging mother, we're judging the situation. We're trying to understand the lesson that she has to learn, not to be judgmental about her mother. Yeah. That I would guess, I don't know, as I said, I don't know the circumstances, but I would guess it would be around that area, her relationship with her mother. That's where the real spiritual work has got to be done, because it's almost like she's anchored down. She's anchored it down in that childhood. She hasn't released herself. And the work, the life lesson would be to be able to release herself, to love her mother, to accept what her mother did. But the main thing is to release herself so she can then carry on. And remember, you have spiritual wings. You can fly. At the moment, she's locked down. She's stuck. I love that Buddhist teaching, Tibetan Buddhist teaching, that she said, if you love I think it's about birds. If you love birds, you open the cage and let them fly. She's anchored down into that memory. And there's a life lesson there for her to learn to release herself. Yeah. And that's what I would be working on. I don't know which one it is. That was just a guess.
So, I mean, that principle could be applied to any childhood trauma or trauma from your past that remains unresolved. And as you say, at the moment, whilst it's unresolved, it's anchoring her down. And it just so happens that her emotional resilience downtime, because, you know, this is a very emotionally aware lady. It's just a specific issue that remains unresolved, but that's surfacing for her first thing in the morning. For some people, childhood traumas, unresolved issues from the past surface in the evening when they're more tired, or 3 o'clock in the morning, or when they meet a challenging situation in their daily life, which kind of triggers and reawakens that unresolved childhood issue.
And just as we're talking about this general point, so we're not trying to be specific, but I will tell you a lot of my clients will say, oh, I'm not going there. Yeah. I'm not going there. I'm sorry, we have to go there.
Yeah.
And we do it with care, with love, with compassion. And we go there because there is something that needs to be resolved, to be sorted, a lesson for you to learn. We're not trying, as Alex said, we're not trying to blame anybody. We're not trying to pass judgment on anybody. We're trying to release you so you can live to your full potential, for you to flourish. And that's what the Wu Wei process is to encourage you to flourish, to be the best that you can be. And it's based in Taoism, and this is the teachings of Taoism, for you to flourish, to be in your flow, to be at one with nature and everything around you. That lady is not at one with her past.
Yeah.
Now, the other example...
Can I just say before we move on, David, we've done several videos also on healing childhood trauma that would help this lady and you, if you can relate to anything we've just discussed. And I will put a link above to one of the videos, and I'll put some more below in the video description.
That's great.
Sorry, David.
No, that's great. Because the two examples you said was two ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Now
Thinking backwards
that lady is anchored in as in the past. And the other one is in the future, creating monsters, creating problems, creating situations that don't even exist.
Expectations about things going wrong, everything being in a disaster.
Absolutely. And this, for me, is so powerful because, you know, I'm a great believer in the law of attraction. So guess what happens when you create problems? Problems happen. Everything you look at, you're putting those glasses on again with a yellow tint. So everything you're looking for a problem. And what she's doing is waking up and then immediately presuming the day ahead and just hitting problem on top of problem on top of problem. No wonder she wants to go bury the pillars over her head, because who would want to live your life like that? Because she's just creating this. We've done a video on creative imagination. This is what I mean. The highly sensitive person's superpowers. I will put a link to that video as well. And that beautiful quality of creative imagination is the one that when it swings out of balance, you will create problems, imagine worst case scenarios and elaborate them so vividly that you believe they're reality. Absolutely.
But David, if I've only just woken up though, and I haven't had the time to create all these elaborate stories in my mind.
The stories are already there.
So it's almost like they're filed away, or it's like the stories are already the rubbish and the clothes and the old books and magazines that are dumped on my bedroom floor from the day before, the week before. I've already been just dumping. And what you're saying is when I wake up and open my eyes, the rubbish is already there, ready-made for me. The stories, the expectations of things going wrong, it's immediate. I don't even have to spend time planning it or thinking how bad it's going to be.
It starts using the feng shui kind of example. One of the things is clear under the bed. Yeah. Because you know there's rubbish under that bed.
The hidden stuff,
you don't have to go and look at it. You know it's there.
Yeah.
And this is the same with this. If this is your default, if this is how you work, as soon as you open your eyes, the computer starts and it starts. And within a split second, you are starting to, oh, God, I'm late. Oh, this is, oh, you know, this, oh, well, the kids won't get to school.
And it spirals, doesn't it?
And this is when you start the red lights.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like the snowball is gathering momentum going down the hill. And before you know it, within 30 seconds, you're at full pace. Yeah. And then you go, here I go again. I can't cope. I'm not good enough. This won't work for me. I know what's going to happen later on. It's all going to go I won't use a word, but it's all going to go wrong, and it's not going to happen. And so therefore you're in that kind of illusion. This is a poor illusion that you're setting. And this is why the analogy that Alex used, you've got to tidy your mind. It's your mind. You've got to do the maintenance. So I understand you can't do it in that moment. I'm not saying, because lots of people say...
You mean don't do the golden thread process work where you're digging deep to the core beliefs and the life lessons, because we haven't got time in that moment. Because we have to get up, get ready for bed, sort out the children, get ready for work. We haven't got time to do lots of self-development work there and then.
And this is what clients say to me. Well, you expect me to do the work then? I've got to get off to work. No, I don't. No, I don't expect you to do the work then, but I do expect you to do the work. You know why? Because if you've got time to worry, fret, doubt, you've got time to do this work. It takes the equal amount of time. Instead of wasting and sending all that time down the drain, the plug hole, why don't you do 10, 15 minutes of work a day, just doing the golden thread work, getting down to those core beliefs, doing that maintenance, and be consistent. Because here's what happens. You start doing the work because it's got so bad. It improves, and then guess what you do? You stop doing the work. I never understand it. You start doing the work, things get better. No sooner they get better, you stop doing it, and then you revert back to what you was doing before. Stop it. This is a nonsense. Carry on and get it cleared up.
Yeah, I mean, that principle of consistency and making sure that you do go back and do the work, that is something we talked about in last week's video on emotional resilience. And if you haven't seen it now, I will put a link to that in the video description below. But David, what I was thinking is that a lot of people, I would imagine, have suffered from this for many years, almost even decades, and then it becomes habitual.
Lifetime.
So they wake up feeling the red light feelings, experiencing the red light feelings, and then they just have to get on with their life. They just have to put a brave face on it. And it is like, to use the analogy, you may just tidy up all the junk off the floor and shove it under the bed or shove it in the wardrobe, but the junk is still there.
Exactly.
Other people might not know it's still there because you've got to go to work, you've got to be smiley and happy at work, you've got to look after your family, but you know it's there. And if you don't go back and get to that rubbish under the bed or all the stuff and rubbish you've shoved in the wardrobe, it doesn't get resolved.
Absolutely.
So instead of, if we're short of time first thing in the morning and we experience these red light feelings, is there anything we can do in that moment? Say we've got 10 minutes to spare before we have to get up and get on with things. Is there anything we can do just to help ourselves to rebalance our emotions in that moment, just so that we do start the day off more positively, with a promise to ourselves that we will go back later on today, maybe in the evening when we've got a bit more time, and do the deeper work? But what could we do in that moment?
So this is why our process is not kind of a religion. There's nothing to follow. You've got to find something that lifts your mood. Shall I tell you what I do? Put soul music on. Put Tambla Motown on. Put it on loud and get out of bed. Go and have a shower with it blasting out. You've got to change that energy.
Yeah.
Now, you may not like Tambla Motown. I don't know. But to me, this morning, hearing Stevie Wonder shouting out, about life, it lifts my spirit. But it won't cure it. It's only an elastoplast. Yeah. You've got to do the work. And this is the thing. Whatever it is, some people like to go up and go for a jog. Some people like to walk their dog. Some people like to do some yoga. Some people like to do some exercise. Some people like to do some meditation. You can do anything you want to change that mood in that moment, because it's only a mood. But if you do not do the work, you just refer back to the same thing the next morning and the next morning and the next morning. So it's a two-way thing. Don't think that quick fix is going to cure it. It won't cure it. It will get you out of bed. It'll get you moving, but you've got to go and do the work. And that's the key. Don't go, oh, God, that's too difficult. It can't be too difficult. If you've got enough time to worry, fret, project off into the future or go back into the past, you've got enough time to do this work.
So I guess what you're saying, David, is that rather than allow the red light feelings to spiral and develop and grow and grow and grow, the tactics, suggestions you're using, whether it's listening to higher energy music that you love, doing a little bit of yoga, listening to some quiet meditation music, walking to work rather than getting the bus to work so you can kind of see what's around you, anything that kind of stops, it puts almost like the brakes on the development of the red light emotions so they don't grow and grow and grow. That is a good tactic.
That's a good tactic, as long as you
go back to it, the work later. Yeah,
that's the key. That's the key that the people miss. They're always looking for a quick fix, and quick fixes are just that: quick fixes. They don't solve the problem, and so then what happens with a quick fix? After a few weeks or months, a quick fix stops working. And this is the problem. Mm-hmm. You've got to go and resolve the issue. This is your responsibility. This is about self-responsibility. This is your issue. This is your life lesson that you have to learn. Why wouldn't you want to learn a life lesson that's good for you, that clears all this up once and for all? That lady we was talking about, there's something really important that she's got to learn in her past. Why doesn't she want to learn that lesson and just free herself so she can fly? That's the work. Yes, it does take a bit of effort. You're right. It does take a little bit of effort. But waking up in this malaise also takes effort. So it's not the one is effortless and one is no effort. I would say this waking up with this malaise of anger, of resentment, of anxiety, whatever emotion it is, that's draining your energy before you even start. Yeah. Imagine waking up and being in wu-wei balance, ready for the day, ready to address all of the situations and the issues that you're going to have during that day. Because the truth is, you will have issues and situations. I want you to be balanced, be flexible, be adaptable to deal with those, using your sensitivity, using your determination, and using your creative imagination in balance, so you can deal with things authentically, uniquely, that displays who you are. And this is the wu-wei teaching.
Brilliant. Thank you, David. So I guess to summarize, what I've learned from that is two core principles, which we talk about all the time, is taking self-responsibility. Just because these red light feelings appear immediately first thing in the morning doesn't mean that you're not responsible for creating them or dealing with them. And then the second principle is consistency. Be consistent with your approach to how you deal with it. And what we've said almost like as a two-step approach. First step is, in the immediacy of the morning, when you're very short of time, is to do something that stops the cycle of the negative thought processes developing, inflaming the red light emotions even more. So whatever healthy habit that is for you, do that and do it consistently. Now, I guess the inner child may resist you putting in that practice. So you have to be aware of that, because the inner child, the unresolved childhood issues that are creating these red light feelings, the inner child wants to stay stuck. And we talk about this a lot on our inner child videos. I'll put a link to below because it's familiar. So it will resist you putting in place these new 10-minute healthy habits. If you already do these healthy habits, or you've got some good ideas of what might work for you, please comment below and share your thoughts with us. The second step, as David said, and it's the most important step, is to make and keep that promise to yourself that at some point later in the day, you will set aside time to do the deeper work, to find out what's going on, what's creating these feelings. And that's down to doing the work on the core beliefs with the golden thread process. And as I say, we'll put lots of video resources in the description below that will help you with that. I hope you've enjoyed the video. As I said, if you can relate to anything we talked about, please comment and share your thoughts below. We produce new videos every week, so please do subscribe to our YouTube channel to get all our latest updates. And if you'd like to work one-to-one with David on any of the issues we discussed, he works with clients all over the world by video call, and I will put a link to learn more about that in the description below. Take care. Bye-bye.